Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to another chapter at Sweetwater. I appreciate you all coming today, and it's a pretty exciting day. One of the oldest instruments in the world, of course, is the piano. And when I started the company 32 years ago, or way back in 1975, I never thought that I'd have the opportunity to offer grand pianos to people in Fort Wayne in this region. And it's quite a day that's come. I got to give a lot of credit to the man and the family that put pianos on the map in this region. When I first started, and Mr. Meyers will talk about this a little bit, I needed an electric piano, and I went to Fred Meyers Piano on Calhoun Street at that time and bought my first electric piano. And were it not for the success of an amazing company, amazing family, I can't imagine how many pianos you've put in this community through the years, but absolutely has put music into Fort Wayne. And so with that, I'd love to invite up Mr. David Meyers.
Today does mark a grand day of change for Fort Wayne, Fred Meyers, Chuck Surack, Sweetwater, and Yamaha Corporation of America. Fred Meyers says goodbye after 58 years in Fort Wayne. 27 of those years were representing the world's first piano, the first choice piano, the Yamaha. How many lives have been enriched and even changed by the touch of fingers on a keyboard? 36 years ago, a young high school student came into our store, touched his fingers on a keyboard, and those notes resonate to this very day. But let me tell you some brief background first. While Fort Wayne's piano heritage has had many contributors over the past 139 years, the three most important are the Packard Company, Fred Meyers, and Sweetwater. Both Packard and Sweetwater served 58 years. Sweetwater is now in its 32nd year and still expanding. All three of these companies have linking connections. My father, Fred Meyers, his mentor was H.O. Ware, a former Packard employee who continued in the piano business after Packard's closure in 1930. Fred Meyers always offered to Fort Wayne the most famous piano and organ brands and the latest technology. For example, it was 1955 that the word electronic was first created to describe the breakthrough technology of the Wurlitzer electronic piano. 36 years ago, that high school student I mentioned earlier was already a fine instrumental musician, and even then, wanting to be on the leading edge of music technology, came into our store and purchased his first piano, a Wurlitzer electronic piano. I processed that sale. Chuck Surack was the student's name, and he still owns that piano. Chuck, as we all know, has gone on to change the music world with the same adventuresome spirit of living on the leading edge of music. Chuck, I'm very pleased and proud to present to you your original, now framed and historic, Fred Meyers invoice for your very first piano, state-of-the-art in 1975 Wurlitzer electronic piano. And I'm very privileged to see the Yamaha legacy placed into the hands of a man whose fingers touch the keyboard continues to change people's lives.
Wow. Well, David, I know your record keeping is much better than mine because I did not have this receipt. Thank you. That's quite an honor. Wow. Cool. With that, I'd like to bring up the National Director of Sales for Yamaha Pianos, Mr. Bob Heller. Please.
I just want to say real quickly what an honor it is for Yamaha to be here today, to be invited to this celebration. It truly was a remarkable transition to go from the Fred Meyers organization to Sweetwater. For Yamaha to be part of that transition, we're very honored, we're very humbled by it. And as a token of that, I'd like to ask Mr. Meyers to come back up again, please. I have something I want to give to you.
You don't have an original invoice of mine.
I don't. On behalf of Yamaha Corporation of America, we'd like to present you with this plaque.
Thank you.
And if you were to go to the Fred Meyers website, It's a family tradition for 58 years.
Yes.
So Yamaha was very honored to be, and we'd like to say thank you for allowing Yamaha to be part of your family tradition for the past 27 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One brief commercial of all of our major brand names. It truly is true. No vendor has done better with customer support, dealer service, and current technology than the Yamaha Music Corporation of America. Free commercial.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. And now I'd like to invite my good friend, the Honorable Mayor of Fort Wayne, Mayor Tom Henry, please.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Dave. What a great opportunity it is to celebrate the history of Fred Meyers Piano and the future of Fort Wayne's own Sweetwater Sound. For many decades, Fred Meyers was the go-to place for keyboards and pianos in Fort Wayne. And now, that iconic piano that was at the store is at the Bollinger Theater here in Fort Wayne. I'm really glad that Dave could be here today to be part of this next chapter of keyboards and pianos and continue the Meyer-Surack relationship. Chuck, you've been amazing, and I've told you that many times, to the city of Fort Wayne, and as a music instrument and audio tech dealer. In fact, he's now, I believe, the third largest in the country. The expanded showroom and retail outlet shows Sweetwater's commitment to the city of Fort Wayne and how a locally grown company can become a national player in the marketplace. Sweetwater shows how Fort Wayne really is a good place to work and do business. With that being said, I've got a little surprise for you. Mike?
Yes.
Hi, Mike. This is Mayor Tom Henry from the city of Fort Wayne. How are
Nice
you
to
today?
meet you.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure to meet you. Mike, all of us know what an accomplished musician you have been. You played with David Bowie since, I believe, 1972. You played with the LA Philharmonic. You played with a number of world-known jazz musicians. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Still going.
There you go. That's what we like to hear. As an accomplished musician and composer, what would you say to the young people in the city of Fort Wayne, those who are interested in perhaps following in your footsteps?
Well, it's the old joke that I learned when I was a kid. You want to get to Carnegie Hall, practice, practice, practice.
Well put, well put. Well, we're certainly honored and privileged to have you with us today. I know you're going to play a little bit for us in a few minutes, but first of all, I'd like to ask Chuck Surack to explain to everyone the technology that we're about to use. Chuck?
Great. We're going to see some very state-of-the-art technology, and it's probably even a little more complicated than I could explain. So I'm going to ask Yamaha representative Craig Knudsen to come up and explain a little more detail.
Thanks, Chuck. Well, very excited to be able to talk a little bit about the technology itself. As Chuck mentioned, the acoustic piano has been around for many years, about 300 years to be exact, and the technology has not changed too much in those 300 years. It was about 100 years ago that a technology became very popular, and in fact, you could argue inspired a whole nation, and that was the player piano, reproducing pianos. I don't know if you know this, but player pianos really were how popular music was distributed in the United States. How did people know the words to Ain't She Sweet? This is before radio. It was player pianos. You could find them in every theater, every salon, every saloon, and in fact in customers' homes. In 1925, this technology became so popular that they sold more player pianos in 1925 than they did acoustic pianos. All right? There was also a musician who was inspired by this technology. His name was George Gershwin. He learned to play the piano by putting his fingers where the keys were moving on a friend's player piano. I've got a little surprise for you, a little bit of technology. We've got an Apple store right here among the Yamahas. I've got an Apple iPad here that I'm going to press play, we converted at Yamaha a piano roll of George Gershwin himself playing Rhapsody in Blue. So at this point, when you see a key move or a pedal move, it's George Gershwin playing this piano. And with the wireless iPad, we've got a digital player piano roll. Well, you could argue that that's a transference in time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to do a transference in place. You already know that we have a musician sitting on a piano in Los Angeles right now. He didn't get on a plane to perform. He is actually going to perform for you live. Every key that moves is Mike playing this key. Every pedal that moves is Mike playing this key in California. So let me get on with the official introduction of Mike Garson. He has played with the great jazz musicians of the last century, including Stan Getz, Elvin Jones, Freddie Hubbard, and Stanley Clarke. And as mentioned earlier, he's worked on and off with David Bowie since 1972. He's played with the LA Philharmonic, composed concertos, sonatas, pop songs, and even composed and scored the movie Stigmata. He's worked with Nine Inch Nails and Smashing Pumpkins. And yet at the age of 15, he played with Mel Torme and later Nancy Wilson. He's a big fan of Art Tatum and Oscar Peterson and Bill Evans, and yet he loves Rubinstein and Horowitz. He's composed 4,600 pieces of music. And here's a quote from David Bowie himself. "It's pointless to talk about Mike's ability as a pianist. He is exceptional. However, there are very few musicians, let alone pianists, who naturally understand the movement and free thinking necessary to hurl themselves into experimental and traditional areas of music, sometimes at the same time. Mike does this with such enthusiasm, it makes my heart glad just to be in the same room with him." Well, today, all of us will be in the same room with him. Everything is improvised. He's going to do a George Gershwin medley. Mike Garson.